So, welcome to the show, Caleb.
Hey, Sarah, it's so awesome to be able to chat with you. I've been looking forward to this. I'm excited to dive into this with you.
And I am excited to have you here. Because I just love the ethos behind Sifted. You talk about bringing clarity, about empowering shippers and having them or helping them to thrive. You say you advocate for your customers. And I really love that because it's not the kind of language you hear regularly in this space, and it goes to show how committed and passionate you are. So I'm just so excited to find out more. So let's dive in.
Awesome.
I want to ask you, we're going to go into more detail in the coming questions, but can you start by giving us an overview? What does Sifted do and how do you help your customers?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. First of all, I'm so excited to be able to chat with you. And at our core, Sifted is a data analytics, data science company that specializes in transportation data. We act as the in between on behalf of shippers and their carriers. So we sit right in the middle. We absorb carrier data on a regular weekly basis. We analyze that data, normalize the data, and then provide it back to our customers in actionable insights that they can then go take that information and make better informed decisions to reduce costs and improve efficiencies. It's a really cool model. And from your kind of intro there, it is unique. You've got a lot of players in the space that do a variety of things, and shippers are really looking for ways to be more nimble and ways to make smarter decisions. And the way that they do that is by looking at their data and understanding their data so that they can be um, able to make those better decisions in the market space.
Yeah, and data is really, surpassing oil when it comes to value.
Yes.
And I've said this over the last couple of months. And so it's really, really important, especially right now in supply chain. There's so many risks, there's so many disruptions. And it's really that data, the good data that they're
Hmm.
going to need to be able to make those decisions. So I think it's really, really important what you do. But before we go any further, can you just explain to us what logistics intelligence is and what role it is playing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what you're talking about with that data. That data is, I would say, shippers are overwhelmed with data. It's not like they have no data whatsoever. They have a legitimate like data dump that's been given to them by their carriers, and their job is to go through and analyze that data. And they spend a lot of time in Excel. We call it being trapped in Excel hell. Excel is like a great tool, don't get me wrong, but from a transportation standpoint, Excel is not a transportation tool.
Right.
That's what logistics intelligence is. It's our way of indicating, okay, you've got business intelligence or BI that's out there that provides business owners with an opportunity to understand what's happening in their own business. Logistics intelligence is exactly that, but at the logistics level. So it's exactly what's happening with their current spend, where certain things might be tracking, where it's off, ways that they might be able to improve. Um, and I think more importantly is ways that they can be more efficient in their own operations. Getting, especially on the parcel side, 2 day delivery, 3 day delivery, thanks to Amazon and kind of the precedents that Amazon's put in place, is a major pressure on a lot of shippers. We're not even scratching the surface yet on labor shortage issues and the supply chain issues that the carriers are facing right now and that are being pressed onto FedEx and UPS shippers around the country.
Absolutely. And the conversation about Excel, everybody has different opinions about Excel, but I think part of the consensus is that too many people are using Excel. We just did a Friday funny about Excel, and I think it got over 1,700 reactions and multiple comments because of how people feel about that particular word and that
Yes.
particular software. It's absolutely crazy how much we're using it and how much more efficient we could be by, working with companies like Sifted. So let's take a look a closer look at your core solutions. They're broken down into visibility, cost optimization, rate simulation, and operational modeling. And I think you have a couple of add ons as well. So, do you want to talk us through those solutions? What do they do? What challenges are they addressing for your customers?
I think our number one goal is to get clients out of to stop using their normal Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables and whatnot. As I think the visibility piece is key. You mentioned that as kind of a number one aspect for us. That's first step. First step is let's get visibility in front of the client, in front of the shipper. And instead of spending multiple hours to cobble that multiple data sets together, which most shippers are doing in Excel, to have that visibility, that's exactly what Sifted does. So we sit in between the shipper and the carrier. We absorb that carrier data, and we can bring in FedEx, UPS, USPS, Stamps.com, Indicia, regional carriers around the United States, and Purelator in Canada and some other areas. And our main focus is let's do some of the heavy lifting so the clients aren't having to do that themselves and spending that time in Excel. We noticed that a lot of clients spend hours upon hours just cobbling the data together before they can even make actionable insights to what is the data telling them. So that's kind of the first step is let's just bring in visibility. That second step is in cost optimization. So once they have the visibility, what can I do with it? It's the adage of like, I think most shippers and carriers get into a reporting standpoint, which is like, congratulations, Sarah, you spent $200,000 this last month with UPS. Good job. That provides you nothing in terms of like ways to be able to reduce that 200,000.
Right.
And, areas that might be problematic, errors that might be consistently coming up, that's reflected in the data, and it's really hidden in multiple, thousands upon thousands of rows in an Excel spreadsheet in the data. But our system's smart enough to go through and identify ways that you could be able to avoid those errors before they even become errors to begin with.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, there's a lot of areas of cost reduction. On top of it is, looking to see ways in which not only can you avoid errors that come up, but potentially ways that you can be able to reduce your overall contract with FedEx or UPS, which is pretty interesting. Data is so powerful, like you mentioned at the top of the show. By utilizing that data to empower shippers to reduce costs by using it is, I would say, the biggest key that we've seen shippers really try to figure out leading into 2021 and 2022.
Well, and I think it's costs across the board, right? Because it's not only costs with the carriers, right?
That's
Because if
right.
you're making an error over and over and over again, that is costly. But I think also inefficiency in process as well. And so if you're taking that data and you're picking up on, things that are happening over and over and over again, whether those are errors or just process pieces that you may or may not need to be doing anymore, and creating that efficiency, that's also helping that bottom line as well. So a variety of different places that you are helping in the cost reduction.
That, Sarah, you nailed it. That's exactly right. A lot of customers think only externally, like
Right.
with FedEx or UPS or my partner carriers, I need lower rates, so I'm going to go beat them up. In a carrier's market that we're in right now, and it absolutely is a carrier's market, that doesn't necessarily work the same way. And we have to approach it in a variety of unemotional, logic driven decisions that the data is saying. So a lot of customers focus externally when they can be making more cost savings adjustments internally by focusing on what's happening in the four corners of their own business. And it's all in the data.
Yeah, well, and stop waiting for external data, right? Take
Yes.
take control of your own data and how that's going to help you internally, and that in turn also empowers you with your carriers, I would believe.
Absolutely. The carriers are an efficiency organization, right? They make their money when they are the most efficient as possible. They want their customers, shippers out there in the United States and Canada, to make their businesses to be more efficient because it helps ultimately their bottom line. So you're talking in their language, and it is extremely refreshing in some ways to be able to talk to your carrier rep in a much more deeper manner and a more sophisticated manner than give me better rates or I'm walking. It now gets into I need better pricing in these three areas because I'm making adjustments in these areas of my business to be more efficient, which will help your bottom line and your operating revenue.
I love it. I love it. And what I also really like is your sifted score. I mean, it's almost like looking at your credit score. It's very visual, and you talk about using it to address a business's overall shipping health rather than just focusing on one agreement or maybe set of rates. It's really holistic. So, talk us through the sifted score. How does it work, and why is this scorecard method so beneficial to your customers?
I think in parcel, 5 years ago, the market was pretty stable. Where it's at right now is it's completely changed and flipped on its head. Shippers are needing to be more sophisticated, they're needing to be more nimble, and they're needing to be more aware of what's happening, both externally with their partner carriers and internally, like we've talked about. And
Right.
the Sifted Score produces a one pager to them that's updated on a weekly basis, downloads their new carrier billing file information, analyzes the data, and scores it in six key areas. The first three are external. So,
Okay.
first three are with the carriers, and that is their on time delivery percentage or how well of a job that they're doing for you as a shipper. Number two is your fees. How do your fees stack up to other shippers similar in size, and can you
Huh.
find ways to reduce those fees?
I like that.
Number three is the contract. So, is my contract in a healthy spot? FedEx and UPS are making a variety of rate changes uh, and rate increases throughout the year. It used to be just kind of the general rate increase. They're now making tweaks and adjustments to their to not customers' discounts by any means; those are set, but to what the discounts are based off of.
Okay.
So, having a good understanding of where your contract currently sits is huge. And then the last three are internal to an individual shipper. So that would be your operational score, meaning are you shipping the right box sizes?
Ah,
Or are you being hit?
good one.
I know on additional handling or oversize or overmax.
Yeah.
The carriers are really being pretty draconian on the way that they're handling shippers that ship larger boxes, especially going into 2022.
Amazing.
Distribution score is a big one. So, am I shipping from the right locations to the right areas of the United States so that I can be able to reduce my overall zone, reach my customer faster for less money? That's a huge one that we're running into right now.
Yeah, and okay, there's so much to unpack here because I love
Yes.
all of that. First of all, your external scores. When you go to sit down with your carriers and you have the information in front of you based on the data that's
Uh
not
huh.
just your opinion, but is actual hard data that you can present to them to say, hey, this is what our data is showing. This is where we show that we're sitting, and this is what we need to work on with you, carrier,
Yep.
because obviously that's what the data shows. Second of all, when it comes to packaging, this is a huge, huge thing when we talk about sustainability efforts. Right.
Hmm.
And a lot of organizations are really focusing on their sustainability strategy. And one of the biggest things to tie supply chain sustainability and customer experience together is the size of box that they are receiving their product in and whether it actually fits the product that is being shipped. And if you're not shipping the right box, not only does it affect your customer coming back to you because they'll be like, this is ridiculous. I like, this is such a waste,
Hmm.
but you're paying for empty space, right? Because you're
Absolutely.
shipping a larger
I
box.
I think we've
There's
all
so many
received.
things
I
here.
know we've all received packages where you've ordered lip balm from Amazon and it comes in a massive
Yeah.
box and you're thinking, what did I order? And you open it up and it's this big and thinking, what are they doing? It's inefficiencies like that that I think are really commonplace within shippers around the United States, and from uh, 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 offsetting a footprint from an environmental standpoint, as well as being able to say, um, I'm going to avoid the additional handling charges. I'm going to avoid dimensionalization charges. I'm going to avoid oversize charges and focus a little bit more on being more sophisticated and looking at patterns in the
Hmm.
data to say these box sizes have given me the most trouble. Sifted provides modeling for a shipper to say, okay, if I change this box size, what happens?
What?
That's so cool. I love that stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, because what it does is it allows for you to be able to say, okay, I've recognized the problem, but what do I do about it? And modeling that out to say, this 32 by 32 by 12 box, and that weighs 55 pounds. If I take it and if I can shrink that box and work with my box manufacturer and get that down to a 28 by 28 by 10, how much money will that save me as a shipper?
Yeah.
The Sifted software will go through and re-rate all of the old shipments that you have based on that old box size and apply the new box size to it and say, okay, Sarah, if you made this change, this is what you would be able to do and how much you'd be able to save.
Wow.
That's the missing component that a lot of shippers really struggle with.
Absolutely. Plus, when you do that, you empower your employees to pick the right box for that particular product, and they feel better internally about what they're doing and what they're shipping out and how they're contributing to their customer experience as well, which is also huge, right? Especially in a distribution environment. There are so many different pieces, there's a lot of pressure to get product out fast. But if you can empower them by giving them the right tools to get that product out, not only fast, but sustainably, win win situation.
That absolutely. I want to touch on one other thing that you mentioned about sitting down with your carrier rep. We have a lot of customers that once they understand the data and how we use the data, they one of their normal responses, "Wow, FedEx and UPS must hate you." Uh, in reality, it's kind of the actual opposite.
Yeah,
We're, the analogy of sitting down with a carrier and saying, "Give me better rates, or else I'm leaving," or I need a better discount here. Well, why? Well, because I feel like I deserve it.
right.
Um, that becomes really challenging for a FedEx and UPS rep and their pricing department to be
Hmm.
able to say, okay, why do we need to maximize pricing here?
Yeah,
And what's the justification in doing so? I also think that our role is to hold the carrier responsible for mistakes that are being made or errors that are coming up that they might not be consistently telling you about.
yeah,
And so we do a full blown audit behind the scenes. We identify shipments that are late, lost, damaged, stolen, misbilled, what have you.
yeah,
And having that true on time delivery percentage back to your team and to your staff so that they can be able to have a professional and effective conversation with your carrier rep is really important. Otherwise, they're getting information from the carrier, and that's kind of like putting the fox in the hen house, so to
right.
speak.
Well, and I also think what's important with that is that you're not only showing maybe the carrier the external data, but you're also showing them the internal data and what you're doing internally so that you're
Yes.
both working more efficiently.
A true partnership, right? And that's exactly what it should be.
Absolutely. So let's now go into mergers because I want to ask you about the merger between Sifted and Berryship. That happened
Yeah.
last year. So, how and why did that partnership come about, and how has that boosted your offering to your customers?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I'm one of the co-founders of Sifted. We started back in 2017. Our focus was to provide really cutting-edge technology to shippers across the country. Uh, and this merger came mainly because uh, Veriship has a large and a well-established brand name in the market space as a predominant and well sought after audit provider that had 5,000 customers across the United States. Sifted had some really interesting and very cool technology, and by merging those two together, we got some excellent personnel, a great client base to be able to work off of, and those Veriship clients got the Sifted platform. And it
Awesome.
truly is this perfect marriage between personnel and technology with a client base that's absolutely needing it. And it's backed by one of the largest private equity firms in the United States. Our focus is let's continue the investment, and we're growing like crazy. We've rebranded Veriship to Sifted, so we're all one company now as Sifted. And
Awesome.
this year, 2021, has been a phenomenal year for us. Our growth has been uh, record breaking, and we're taking that money, reinvesting it back into our product offering so we can continue to innovate like we are. It's
That's
been
right.
truly great to be able to come back to clients and say, thank you for being a part of us and for the journey. And this is how they're benefiting from improved technology throughout the course of it.
Amazing. Congratulations, because I've been through mergers. Mergers are not easy, but it
Yes,
sounds like you've done a really good job and really been able to bring in the people from Very Ship under the Sifted brand, just in one really big common goal of really helping to elevate and up the game for your customers, which I really, really like. So we also we when we talked about Excel, right? I mean, it's so funny because so many businesses are still a bit behind on innovations and technology, and we laugh about Excel spreadsheets and sometimes even faxes, right? We reference it on the Sifted website as well. When Sifted was founded back in 2005, while I was doing my research, things have moved, have they moved as quickly as you thought they were going to since you founded back in 2005? And what kind of, like, we're seeing disruptions all over the place. So, what role have disruptions really played in digitization and the uptake of solutions like yours?
I think one thing that is super consistent in transportation, and I've been a part of it for 15 years, is change. We've
Hmm.
had a substantial amount of change. We were on a normal trajectory of change, which was heavy growth in the e-commerce space. And then what came along was COVID and the pandemic that caused for that e-commerce growth to absolutely explode.
Right.
And that amount of change has been, I think, hard for a lot of shippers to keep up with. On top of that, you bring in Amazon and that 2 day precedence. Even
Hmm.
if they don't order product, customers order product from Amazon. Let's say they order it directly from your website. Most customers' expectations are if they don't see the shipment within 3 business days, they're kind of thinking, what is going on? Um, Most shippers are expecting 2 to 3 day delivery, which puts pressure on most FedEx and UPS users out there.
Yeah.
And really heavy focus on e-commerce has put a strain on the carrier's business.
Hmm.
FedEx just announced their general rate increase, and the day before they did it, they had their earnings release call. They are experiencing a major labor crisis right now, and they're
Wow.
rerouting at the time about 600,000 packages a day to
Wow.
other terminals that had enough personnel to support. What that means for an actual customer is that you're using FedEx services that are being delayed. It's staying longer in the carrier's network. It's being handled more, which gives it more risk of being damaged
Or lost.
or lost. Exactly. That's a big one. And getting all on top of that, uh, where their general rate increase is the largest general rate increase that they are expecting their customers to pay for in the last 8 years, almost decade. So you're going to pay more for services that are less desirable at the moment. And it is just pressure. There is pressure on all sides. We feel like the best way to alleviate that pressure is through data and being more efficient.
Right.
And especially working with your carriers and trying to negotiate in a carrier world right now, in a carrier market, you're going to have to rely more on facts and figures than you are going to rely more on emotions of, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And so it's been, I would say the last 12 months have been some of the craziest I've seen
Yeah.
in the last 15 years that I've worked in the space.
Well, and I feel for shippers everywhere, because not only are we talking about the challenges within the delivery and the last mile, but obviously we're dealing with raw material shortages, not being able to get product in, and it just is mounting, right? And you're having to pay more for everything as well, including
Absolutely.
the ocean shipment if you are bringing products from overseas as well. And then on top of that, this large general rate increase that we haven't seen for 8 years. I mean, it's just crazy. But at the end of the day, if you can take the emotion out of it and you can bring those facts and figures into the conversation, you can really, you know, hopefully decrease some of that stress just a little bit
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
have some more beneficial conversations. And I think even more targeted conversations. So you're not having multiple meetings that don't need to exist when you've got the data, the facts and the figures, and you're able to really get down to the crux of the issue.
Yeah, I think when you worry less when you have your arms around it more.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what we're empowering shippers to do, is put their arms around what's happening,
Yeah.
having the system tell them exactly what errors are happening or where ways that they can be able to improve. I would say it's akin to fishing where the fish are and spending time on ways to be able to reduce cost in those areas.
Yeah.
Uh, I think beyond that, uh, our job is to provide them that platform that does a lot of that heavy lifting for them, but it doesn't leave them alone with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if shippers need additional help, we assign them a logistics engineer to walk them through their data. And from somebody who is extremely knowledgeable in the space, can say, okay, sir, this is ways that you can be able to do it. This is what the data is telling you. A lot of shippers don't have a data team to go through it. So they're looking for experienced individuals that have uh, worked in both sides of the table that can say, okay, this is the best ways to be able to make this work.
Amazing. Wow, I love that. You can get your own data scientists when you work with Sifted. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's huge.
It's equivalent to two full-time equivalents. So it's two full-time individuals as equivalent to the business working on the parcel side.
Amazing. So one question I have for you real quick before we go back into like your ideal client and stuff. What do you see as the future of shipping? Are we going to continue with these numbers and the way that everything's going, or are we going to be able to get back to some sort of, well, I would say new normal, I guess, because it's not going to go back, but
I think e-commerce is on an upward track that's not going to turn around. That
okay.
growth is going to continue to be crazy. I think what you're experiencing on the ports for ocean shipping and the supply chain mess that's there is going to be there going well into 2022. I think that will be uh, start to kind of level out at the end of 2022.
Hmm.
But what that means for shippers is that they better get their house in order because they're going to be paying more
Hmm.
for services that are going to be um, less on-time delivery than what they're used to. Managing client expectations is going to be an absolute must. And it's like a storm's coming. Get your house in order, get your house locked down, and make sure that your house is as efficient as it possibly can be so that you can weather the storm and be not just surviving in it, but thriving in this. The
Absolutely.
shippers, yeah, that can make this work are going to be the ones that are going to grow the most in an area where I see this as a major opportunity for shippers. It's not all negative, but you've got to be able to make sure your house is in order.
Yeah, and no matter how long it takes, right, you're going to be ahead of everybody else. So let's talk about your ideal client, right? So I'm sitting in the audience, I'm listening to this episode, and I think, like, from the research that I've done, you've worked with over 5,000 businesses across 400 industries. So, do you partner with everyone or do you have an ideal client? Is there an industry? Is there a size? What does that look like when I'm sitting here listening?
An ideal client is really a sweet spot for us. Is if they're shipping more than $500,000 of spend, that's
Okay.
net spend with one of the major carriers. We can really come in, absorb that data, look for areas of improvement, and reduce that cost upwards of 20% back to a client. Where right now, uh, most shippers would kill to have 20% cost savings at the given moment. We have solutions for shippers all the way down to 250,000, but I would say $500,000 of FedEx or UPS spend and above. If you're in that category, uh, give us a call to do a demo. I think you'll be blown away at what the software can do.
Awesome. And then let's bring everything we've talked about to life with the case study. This is my favorite part.
Yeah.
Paint us a picture of how you've worked with one of your customers. Like, what was the challenge that they came to you with? Obviously, your solution or your platform is the solution, but what was the impact or ROI of your solution to them?
I think that's like my favorite question because that's most relatable back to a shipper, right?
Hmm.
The one that comes to mind is a fairly large. I wouldn't say, enterprise, but a fairly decent size e-commerce business that was shipping rugs and home decor. If
Okay.
you can imagine shipping a rug,
Oh yeah.
it's not FedEx and UPS's favorite item to ship right now. It's what they call undesirable freight.
Hmm.
Undesirable freight basically means you're going to get hit really hard if you're a shipper on additional handling or oversize things, that shipments that might not go on a typical automated conveyor belt for FedEx or UPS, and that get dimmed out pretty easily. The shipper was looking at a $1.2 million increase leading into 2022 because of the general rate increase that FedEx was coming out with. By working with Sifted, we helped reduce their overall box sizes. We optimized that by modeling that out. We reduced their overall contract and their rates. We model out the contract and rates, and we re-rate all old shipments under a new proposed FedEx or UPS contract to say, here's down to the penny the net impact if you were to sign that new contract, what it would do for you. That's the kind of level of clarity we can provide.
Amazing.
And then on-time delivery percentage and client expectations, and then helping them revamp what their uh, free shipping policy was to their clients. You can see
Oh,
online like free shipping over orders of $50 or over
yeah.
$99 or just free shipping in general. The number one question when I ask clients, or their response when I ask them, how did you arrive to
They guessed.
that? Yes. Oh,
That is the
totally.
hardest thing ever. They
Yes.
guessed. I
It
swear.
absolutely. It's, well, we felt like we needed to do it, or our competition did it, so we've
Right.
got to match it. Um, Looking at all aspects of cost and client expectations and what clients are willing to pay for shipping needs to be adjusted right now. We model all of that out. The total net impact on this one particular client was $2.4 million that we were
Wow.
able to save them when they were looking at $1 million plus increase that they were going to take for 2022. That's taking a very undesirable customer in the eyes
Yeah.
of FedEx and UPS and making it a very desirable piece of business for them, and ultimately a long-term partnership with their carrier.
I just got goosebumps. Like, that is one amazing case study, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you shared that with us because it's just amazing to see, when you paint that picture of what that can look like and talking about things that we may or may not think about that could really impact it that much. I mean, amazing. So, I really don't want this to end, but we have to end at some point. And so my last question to you is what does the future hold for Sifted? What are we looking at? What can we look forward to?
With a lot of our growth being funded back into the business, meaning a lot of that money that we're making is being put into product development and future growth, we'll continue to innovate like crazy. A big area that we're going to focus on is we're working further upstream. So a lot of traditional audit companies are more, I would say, post-mortem. They're looking at areas to say, okay, this is what's happened. We're going to work further upstream to say, okay, we're going to be more predictive and to stop an error before it even becomes an error to begin with. Um, we'll branch into LTL and get into real time network and carrier performance, which I think a lot of shippers are needing right now.
Hmm.
We're pretty ambitious in our growth plan, and we're looking to absolutely dominate coming into 2022.
I love that. And what's your website? Where can people visit you?
It's www.sifted.com. If you go onto the website, you can sign up for a free demo. You'll talk to a professional expert like myself that will walk you through the platform, give you a good understanding of what the software can do. We also do a free proof of concept, which means we'll bring in some of your data, we'll analyze it for free, we'll come back with that sifted score that we talked about in those 6 key areas, and to say, look, if you were to partner with Sifted, this is how much Sifted could save you down to the penny, to
Nice.
make sure that it makes sense even before you move forward and signing an agreement with us.
Amazing. I really enjoyed that. I mean, like I said before, I did not want to wrap that up. We can all see how the disruptions happening right now in shipping are really shaking the industry to the core. And, there's no quick fixes. It's going to take a lot of commitment, investment, and collaboration to get us all through it. But I think, brands like Sifted really have the right idea because when we empower the players involved, When we give them the right tools, the right information, and we support them in feeling confident and in control of what they're doing, that's what leads to success. And I cannot wait to see what is to come. So, a big thanks to Caleb for joining us today and to Sifted for making this episode happen.